Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Today, I'm very pleased to invite founder 𝐒𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐬, Nanna Soenya, in my show. Let's welcome her. Hello, Nana. How are you doing?
Hi, Nadia. I'm doing really well and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for accepting the invite and coming to this conversation. And this means a lot to me.
Thank you so much. I love meeting new women and I love meeting women from the brown community and the Black community all across Europe. So this is a good thing.
We have the same in common. We would like to know some of your background, like how you came into this work, what you studied, and if you could just share a little introduction with us.
Sure. Well, let's start from I actually studied business of fashion management in London College of Fashion because I was really interested in fashion, but it took me on a different journey where I began to travel around Europe and I was really interested in working in international development. So I quickly moved into that by moving into Mexico and working with an organization called Coalition Against Trafficking of Women because I was focused on working and understanding the phenomenon of the commercial sexual exploitation of children in Mexico. And I spent 13 years of my life doing that. And across my life and my work, I came to the UK when I was 7 years old with my mother, and I had been living in Ghana. It was a really nice life. And when I came to the UK, I immediately discovered how hard life could be for people, especially people from other countries in the diaspora. And it always stuck with me, the inequalities and the unfairness, but I never thought that it was anything that I could do to change or stop it. Whilst I was in Mexico, I understood, as you grow up, you understand the inequalities that come with being a woman of color, and how many obstacles you have to face and how many challenges you have to overcome, ones that nobody sees, invisible ones. And over the course of my life, it became very apparent that a lot of the issues surrounding the things that I was studying and learning had to do with the lack of support that women had in general. So I hadn't thought about starting something like this here. I had wanted to start something like this in Mexico, but I hadn't thought of starting something like this. And because of COVID, I had to come back to the UK. And in coming back to the UK, I had discovered that it was really, really difficult for women to get access to funds and resources. So what I did is I studied and I learned and I tried to understand whether or not it was my issue or was a general issue. And I found out it was a very big general issue. And that is what led me to opening the Fundhership Grant. 𝐒𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐬 in and of itself has been a project that's been going along for years and years and years. And what has happened is that I put it to one side because I was always trying to focus on other things, and basically just putting aside what I felt I should do for my life. 𝐒𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐬 as a company is a full circle moment, and the Fundhership Grant as our flagship initiative is really addressing some of the issues that I faced from very young when I was trying to do things for myself. The lack of access to money. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Nana, for sharing this. You came when you were 7 from Ghana to a different country. English
Yeah,
speaking,
I did.
entirely
Yes,
difficult. And of course,
yeah,
here you had to build a new life, no friends, no connection, no community, familiar.
yeah,
Do you
yeah.
recall the moment that actually were very, very tough? Or when you were thinking, okay, if I had my friends, my peers, my community, it would have been better. And eventually, some of the 2, 3 things that led you to eventually came up with the startup, 𝐒𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐬 and provide funding to the other females. Like, when was the time when you knew that it is not an individual your problem? In fact, it is a collective problem. It's people coming from outside of the world.
Well, this is the thing. I had always found it hard because of the work that I was doing in Mexico. I had to self-fund. I had to look for people to sponsor and fund me. And I would always get, oh, you're doing such an amazing job. Or you're doing so great things. Or this is so needed. And I'd be like, okay, but it needs money. And I'd always be like, I'd be told, oh, just fundraise. That's what everybody does. The people just fundraise and, and nobody wanted to give me the money. And
Yeah.
many times when I would talk to people, they would say, Well, maybe it's because other people are doing what you're already doing. Maybe it's because your project isn't good enough. Maybe every other reason except for what it was. And the pinnacle moment for me was when, like I said, I was in Mexico and I discovered that in Mexico, women were facing the same things. When it came to getting business funding and anything like that, women were told, oh, go start a cooperative. Oh, go do this and go do this and go do this. And I thought, oh, that's really strange. Why is that happening? Like, women know how to handle money well. What's going on? And I thought, this cannot be happening anywhere else. And whilst I was in Mexico, I discovered the Amber Grant, which is the US version of this. And it's been going for like 28 years right now. And it's a grant just with the same model. And I discovered that there were a lot of grants for women in Mexico. And I thought there must be the same in the UK. Right? Because it's the UK. Why wouldn't there be the same? And when I arrived and I started a business, I started another business completely, because I had to let my stuff in Mexico go because of COVID, etc. Found that it was really, really difficult to get funding, excessively difficult to get funding. And again, I started off by thinking, oh, it's because of you. It's because you haven't lived here. It's because you haven't been here. I don't know. It's because, and so, but it got to a point where now I had access to the internet and access to research, access to statistics, access to seeing whether or not it was a me problem that I had thought about this whole time. And very shortly after I started doing research, I realized it wasn't a me problem. It is a systemic. Well, first of all, we have the gender pay gap, which is going to take, I don't know how many thousands of years to close. And then we have the statistics that even though, at least in the UK, for every £1 that a woman receives, she regenerates 78p. But for every £1 that a man receives, he only regenerates p, right? So if we change it into euros, that's 78 cents and that's 31 cents. You know what I mean? But
That
women are still yeah. And women are still not getting, access to money. What is it? And it all boils down to the pervasive salience that women are just not good enough to get money. Whereas the statistics, when research has been done, shows time and again that women in leadership, women handling money, women handling companies outperform men
yeah.
completely. And so I was like, okay, if most of these institutions are run by men and run by this ideology, and sometimes even women buy into this ideology, okay, there must be other ways that women must get money. There must be other ways, right? So I started looking. I was like, there must be enough grants. There must be enough. And again, all the grants go to men. And at least in the UK, there are 5 to 10 grants that are only aimed at women compared to the 345 grants that are aimed at everybody and mostly men get. And then when it comes to black and brown women, there's like 3 to 5 grants. And I was like, so where are we getting our money from? And then I did the research again, and it turned out that 88% of at least black founders start businesses from their own pockets as compared to white founders. So
Mm.
there was enough evidence that even though I was resistant to doing something here because I felt like I needed to go back to Mexico where I had my work, that I was like, something should be done. Is anybody doing anything about this? And then the big question is, but who starts grants? Who can start a grant? Professional enough? Do you look official enough? Are you in that room with those people that make the decisions about grants? And and then I did so it wasn't just moments. It was all of like a journey of little things. And I started going out into networking events and talking to women, and everybody would say, if only I had £10,000. If only I had 10,000. If only just I could, if only. And I kept hearing it over and over again. And finally it came to a point where I was like, I think I'm the one that's supposed to do this because I'm somebody who is more interested in solutions than I am in dissecting the problem, right? I want to know the problem, but as soon as I find the root of the problem, okay, what's the solution? Let's figure out a solution that we can actually action. Not a solution we can talk about, not a solution we can discuss, a solution we can put into action to solve the problem. And that's how the Fundship Grant came about.
Right. So basically, it's a complete system of barriers to creating equitable funding system for women, especially women of color. They even have more
Yeah,
problems. So,
yeah.
what are the projects that that your Omega 7 funds? A, how do you create that funding environment, and where do you take that funds from? Suppose if I come to you that this is an amazing short movie that I want to make, how can I approach Omega 7, and how will you? Is this something that you will be interested to support? How does this work? Like, what are your top focus?
Okay, so the applications forms work like this. The main thing here is to fund Black and Brown women. Whether they have businesses, projects, or ideas, this is not industry specific.
Okay.
Whether their businesses are years old or they're just visions, whether they are standalone projects, whatever they are, you can apply for the grant. Now, what we don't do, like many other grant processes, is we have this specific criteria, send in your application, and we'll see if you fit.
Yeah.
What we want to hear in our application form, it's 2 questions. What we want to hear is, what is your business project or idea? And how will this money impact your business project or idea? That is it. You have 5,000 characters in each question to answer. And then to your other question, how do we have the funds? This grant is self-sustaining, just like the model in the US. What does that mean? That when you apply and you answer your 2 questions, you pay a £20 application fee. And 100% of that £20 application fee goes into the grant pot to make it possible to give the grant out. Now, if you do not get the grant this time, what you are building and what you are being part of is the success of another woman. And this is where the truth lies. If one woman succeeds in getting funding, it breaks the barriers for the rest of us. And then the other thing that we have as well is that if you don't get the grant this time, you can reapply again after 3 months and after 3 months. So this is a new form of funding that changes the mindset of individuality into a collective effort, because that is how we get out of these situations. As we are trying to dismantle the behemoth that is patriarchy and misogyny and biases against us, we have to create new ecosystems that make us a priority. And that is the foundation of the Fund Her initiative.
This is great to know that you have kept this system very simple. The applications usually associated with grants is like 100 pages.
As far as I'm concerned, they're insulting because they ask you the same question about 5 different times in 5 different ways. And it's over scrutiny for no reason. And it's created like that, especially for women.
Also, is there a limited range that is sponsored?
We are currently only able to give out £10,000 a month. Now, it's interesting because we were going to have our interview last week, weren't we? And currently the grant was only available last week in the UK.
Okay.
And because of demand, we have worked so that we are compliant with EU law so we can offer it to women in the EU. And so that would be the equivalent of £10,000, which would be just over, I don't know, maybe almost €11,000. And what we're trying to do is this. The grant is not there to solve all your problems. It's there to alleviate the lack that you have, but it's a dignified amount. Sometimes you have grant programs and they're like, we'll give you 2,000. And let's be honest, what is €2,000 going to do? Let's be honest. It can cover some things, but it can't cover enough for you to say, okay, I can breathe enough to think on my next steps. I can invest enough into something to think onto my next steps. So what I want to do and what we're planning to do is grow the grant from 1 grant of 10,000 to 2 to 3 and hopefully to 5 grants of 10,000. So we would be giving £50,000 or the equivalent every month to women, Black and Brown women across the European diaspora, which is really, really important. So that is how we do it. And then at the end of the year, to one of the 12 recipients, we give out a £25,000 grant that is done by public vote. So the public vote for the person one of the 12 who has received, to receive £25,000. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Okay, this is great to know. And I agree with you, Nanna, that €2,000 will not make any difference at all. In fact, Europe has become so expensive. Only the rent, 5% of your, and with €2,000, you cannot even run a house for a month. So this is how expensive Europe has become. But I'm glad that you are able to provide at least you are able to provide some help for the women who need it. And 10,000 to begin with, 10,000, €11,000, it's still better. How do you balance the strategic aspects of your work with the personal connection and grassroots involvement that often play a role in advancing women rights and access to the resources?
It's interesting because I guess my work in Mexico and working at a grassroots level for so many years have allowed me working at a grassroots level for so many years, and then at the same time working with institutions and governments and all of that side of things, legal frameworks, has allowed me to be able to hold that position well. I, for instance, have an advisory board of 7 Black and brown women of different ages here in the UK that are the ones that make the final decision on the person who receives the grant. So that alleviates me, and I would never want to be part of that because it's so much responsibility. That alleviates me of the need to distance myself from the grassroots of connecting with the women. This is the other most important thing. You know, some people start grants and they put out an advert and they say this is the grant. They forget that the women that they are dealing with need to feel connected.
Yeah.
They need to feel seen, and they need to be able to see themselves in the
Mm.
people that are doing the thing. Because we've been so lied to. We've been so disappointed. We've been told, go here, do this, turn this, jump around, stand on one leg, do this. And then you finish and there's nothing in it. So for me, it was really important that people saw not just me, but the fact that I never got funding, that actually this £10,000 would have done me great. But
Yeah.
I have understood that my responsibility is to be able to give that access to other women. So that becomes, it doesn't be, I was talking to somebody today and I said to them, yes, Omega 7 as a company, as an organization, holds very weighty things, because the Fundship Grant Initiative is one thing, and then we have our Global Grassroots Initiative, that's another thing. But the understanding of the ideology underneath it is what allows us to carry it with lightness. Yes, it's not a burden. It is necessary. The conversations I've spoken to over 200 and something women face to face. I open my phone to my calendar for them to call me. We cry, we sing, we get angry, we talk. I connect them with networks that they need. I connect them with other people because it's needed.
This is
And I find that I have the capacity to do that. And that's, if you are truly called to something, you will have the grace and the capacity to hold it. And even though I was very reluctant to do this, I seem to have the grace and the capacity to be holding this well. So that is how I balance.
this is great. In fact, you were saying that you don't get involved in the selection process, rather you have a board for fairness. And given your experience in both strategy and entrepreneurship, what are some of the key qualities that the board look for in organizations, individuals, when they consider investments or when the applications come?
It's interesting because as humans, we need to look at the core of things. We make decisions based on our emotions,
Yeah.
right? At the end of the day, no matter how high up on a board or executive CEO, if we psychologically break things down, everybody makes decisions based on their emotions. Now they can look at an application and say, wow, that's a really great project, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there'll be a few words in that application about about the passion, about the reasons that will make somebody choose that over that. The board do not deliberate as a cohort. They deliberate individually. And that's
Yeah.
really important because it keeps everything very fair. So when people ask me that a lot, what makes me stand out? Your authenticity, your truth. Try, if you need to use an AI model to help you write, try to get the AI model to speak from your heart. Don't just tell it to, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are moved by the reality of your life, not by the polishedness of what you think you're going to do, because people can see. And then when it comes to explaining how the money will impact you, saying, for example, saying something like, well, it will allow us to grow means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. But it doesn't mean that you need to detail also every single penny. You don't. But you just need to think, if you know what you're doing and you know what you need the money for, it will be very clear. And if what you are doing comes, even if it is, I want to open a bookshop, if it is from the depths of you, and especially because all the board are women, they will catch the fire of your vision. And that's what has happened so far,
I totally agree with you. This is what happens. Authenticity in a project is something that connects us. And when I was going through your profile, the reason that I connected was you were the one who were trying to make the finance available for the females who wanted to do something. And that is the reason I selected you as a guest so that I can inspire other women also. Okay, if you were not able to get funding for your project, you can be a help for others. And I agree with you because there are a lot of
Yeah.
people who are very reluctant to use AI. It is a tool that is made available for help, and that's okay to ask for help. If it is for AI, for ChatGPT, for Canva to make your presentation better, because again, no matter how authentic you are, also important that you present it very well. Passion and hard work
Yeah.
both should be there for a project to be selected. I
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
agree. And I see from your profile that you are a very regular speaker and thought leader on a lot of forums also, and you are very active, engaged with very diverse range of audience. How do you ensure that your message resonates with both policymakers and the organizations, especially when you discuss something like financial inclusion and women empowerment?
Well, because those words are the surface level of what is really going on, right?
Mm.
And so what I try to aim to explain is the root cause of why things are. And I have an ethos that is called Power, Insights in Ecosystems, Pi. I love Pi. Um, and I explain what power truly is and what power has been distorted to become and what power within us can look like. Insights are really important. And even this is what you're talking about, empowerment and inclusion. Without true insights, not stats, without true understanding of what it is that we're dealing with, we cannot fix the problem, right? And ecosystems, if you are not building your company, your work area, or your work environment in a way where it is a thriving place for everybody to grow, you're not achieving things. And under this base, you can speak about anything, right? Even within a home is an ecosystem. If there is imbalance, there will be dissatisfaction, there will be unhappiness. Your meal that you cook, if there is an imbalance with your ingredients, it will not taste great. Like your project that you put up, if you only talk about certain things, it will imbalance the understanding of what people understand your project to be. So it's a very simple ethos that I take when I talk about everything, because coming from that base, it helps people have, instead of giving them just words and air, it helps them have true foundations as to how do I move forward. Okay, women empowerment, what does that mean? Let's look at the foundation of it and let's talk about it when it comes to financial inclusion. Financial inclusion and women empowerment is not just about, oh, we're inclusive. What does that look like when it comes to power, insights, and ecosystems? That is the model that I use consistently, and it works well.
And what practical steps basically you are taking? This matters. Okay, so what role do you believe
Yes.
the fashion and creative industries in advancing women rights and financial access, particularly considering your background at the London College of Fashion and University of Arts, London?
I feel sad for the industry in terms of fashion, because I've always seen that I think most people's worlds are shaped by fashion understanding and theology, whatever your theology is, whether you believe, you don't believe, you semi-believe, you may believe, you didn't. It shapes your cosmovision. How you present yourself, which is fashion, shapes your cosmovision. And if the fashion industry were to divert from showmanship, right, into actually bringing, and let's say there's a lot of female designers now, there's a lot of that. But when you look at catwalks and you look at it, immediately talks about exclusivity and, a separation of classes. And if you don't look this way and if you don't dress this way, and I feel it's not something that can be fixed anytime soon.
Hmm.
But when it comes to fashion, I feel like there's a gap there. When it comes to the creative side of things, I mean, I think the creative world has done so much in artists, through all sorts of artists, to actually give power to women and their voices and how they can express and showcase the struggles, the successes, and all of that. And I think sometimes when we say, how can these industries do that? It's not just one player, is it? So we cannot just put a whole industry together and say, you guys are not doing well enough, because there are some people in some corners that are, they're doing sustainable work. They're empowering, they're giving power to indigenous women in their products. They're doing all of that. And then there's another side that is doing the complete opposite. Or
Yeah.
in the creative industries, there are There are organizations that are consistently uplifting women, and there are organizations that are exploiting women at the same time. So I think it's more to do with who do you
Partner.
work and look towards, and who do you partner with to be able to achieve those goals, right?
This is beautiful. I think this is beautiful explanation, because this really matters who you work with, what their beliefs are. Are they into women economic empowerment, and do they get the right idea of women economic empowerment? Probably this is really, really important. And
Yeah.
I'd like
Yeah.
you to tell us about something that you feel is a very effective strategy that you have found over the years for creating systematic change within traditionally male dominated spaces. Like both fashion is male dominated, financing is male dominated.
Yeah. I think my philosophy is not to change things from the inside out. My philosophy is to build something completely new whilst you're trying to do that. Because the amount of passion, zeal, and energy you have when you see the fact that that isn't working needs to be put into something productive,
Yeah.
right? This dismantling on this side will happen. But if we're putting all our energy into, oh no, this isn't working, we will have nothing left to actually build what we need now.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. You see it, you find a completely new way to do it, and you do it.
Things are not working the way you planned or wish. How do you handle that stress and disappointment? And would you like to share any experience?
How do I handle it? I normally dissect everything, and I normally give myself about 5 options because I'm quite an analytical person. I'm like, what are the options that I have? And I work through each option looking at how best it will work out for me. I'll give you an example. When we started this grant in June, the website user that I have that we have our domain on is Wix. And I've used Wix for years and years and years. But anytime that I have used Wix, I've always used Stripe, or mainly Stripe. But Wix have a new payment system called Wix Payments. And they were like, yes, use our payments, everything in one place, everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be good. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, that's okay. So I connected our payment system to Wix, and I went through the verification process, all of that. We launched the grant. Within a week, we had almost reached the cap for the grant, and Wix shut down my payments and withheld my money. And this was a huge firestorm because we were at the cusp of opening something that has never been opened before.
Yes.
I had the trust of thousands of women who were wanting to believe, but didn't know if this was real. Maybe I was going to run away with their money. They
Yeah.
didn't know. And all of a sudden, you had to think of how will you handle this? And Wix had said, we're not going to give it. This was mid-June. And I
Okay.
needed to have given the money out by mid-July. And they said, we're not going to release the money till August. And that
Okay.
was and then if you do release the money, we may just send it back to the people who paid.
Ooh. This was a complete chaos.
So I had a few options. Either I went public,
Mm.
and I had to assess whether or not going public would be of benefit to me, or it would break the morale of the people. I had to assess who I was going to get in touch with at Wix so that they would listen to me, because when you're dealing with big companies like that, you're seeing whether or not you'll ever reach and also I immediately started doing research to see if it was a me problem or if it was a Wix problem, right? And so as I began to do the first thing I did was change our payments from Wix to Stripe so we could keep receiving, right? I didn't make any big decisions about making any announcements whatsoever. And I began to talk with my advisors as to how to move forward. And we all agreed that talking about it to the public would not be beneficial because most people would not understand. And when a big company does something to you, until the truth comes out, everybody looks at you, the little person, as if it's your fault and it's your problem. So I have dealt with large companies before in my life, and I have always reached a favorable solution because of my work in Mexico. Learning about law, legalities, policy, compliance has been part of my life. So we trailed through all of their websites, all of their policies, everything, and we couldn't find anything. So we began a campaign for Wix. And through that campaign, they finally released the funds in time for us to award the first grant. We did not go for the announcement, and we waited until September, where we had already given out grants and we had already built some trust. And then that announcement was received well, and that garnered a lot more support for us. So in adverse situations, because of my past experience, I try to weigh up what is the best. I remove the emotion from the situation in terms of making quick decisions. And then I move strategically to make sure that the best outcome for us happens, or for anybody happens. And then after that decision is made, I do crash out.
Naya, I see that you're very mature, and I do see when you look back, I'm sure you laugh on things that were very stressful, but then you came out standing. You can leave the emotion from the work, from the stress. How do you
Yeah.
do? Please, I need a tip.
Okay. I'm going to be very honest. It comes with age.
Okay.
I've always been fairly strategic as a person, but
Mm.
because it comes with age, not because of experience, but because of biological development, neurological
Oh,
development. That's what it comes with as well. Your experience helps. And if you did not have arrested development, and if you know what arrested development is that at some point in your childhood, because of traumas, because of situations, you did not able to evolve and develop, you get to a certain age, especially as a woman in your 20s, it's almost impossible to say no to anything.
yeah.
Almost, you don't know why you want to. You don't know why. You don't know why you smiled at that guy when you just wanted to smack him in the face and tell him to leave you alone. And then in your 30s, you can now say no, thank you, but still tolerate. I'll give you this analogy. Still tolerate the silly guy. Just like, yes, please leave me alone. And have a little bit more strength. In your 40s, before they come to you, like, stay where you are. Do not move. I don't care. And it's also to do with the fact that, your progesterone's down, your testosterone is coming up because you're developing, and it shifts completely, and it takes away and it breaks away because as women, especially as women from ethnic minorities, we are always questioned. We are always told, are you sure it's you? Are you sure? You are always, and alongside the men in our families, we are always belittled. We are
Yeah.
always, and so after a while, it comes to a place where you begin to break those barriers. If you are within the environments that can, if you are constantly in an environment where that is always happening, I'm not saying that you can, because it's difficult. It's very, very difficult. So for me, I can take the emotion out of it completely because I don't care anymore. I'm at that I don't care age. I know what I have to do. I know, and I will not. And you know what? This is the other thing. Because in the past, I have allowed people to tell me what I should do, and that has gone badly, right? No, I'm old enough. And if I need advice, I will happily seek it because that is good. But otherwise, you cannot just walk into my life and my business and my projects and tell me what you think I should do. No, it doesn't. In
I
its age, that's what it is.
I'm in love with your attitude, Nana, and I should stay connected with you more. I'll send you my WhatsApp. And sometimes I need those
Happy.
notes to put some sense in me. I'll definitely send you because I'm a very emotional person. So here, like we find halal markets and we go there. Somehow, I don't know why I have very bad habit of talking to someone. So I cannot. I'm not like very serious person. Go uh, do the
Yeah.
grocery shopping, come back. So I'll go. I'll say hello to everyone from security guard to cashier to people standing at the aisle to everyone. And sometimes when I do not get the same amount of respect from them or a same amount of excitement, I come home and I cry. This also happens.
Bless you. That's very sweet. And I'm a hello person. Everybody in my neighborhood knows me. I advocate for people. I'm a hello person. However, people's responses to you, it's nothing on who you are because people are having days. People have days. People have issues. People have their things, right? So that's what I remember because some people, they will, I look for people to smile at all the time. And some people will walk past me with this hair as if they can't see me. And I'm like, you know what? You're having your day. It's okay, and you let it go because it's not about you. The large majority of people's reactions to you have nothing to do with you. It's them. So it could be that they're having a really bad day. It could just be that they're mean people and people are like that. And that's also even less your problem. You know what I mean? It could be that the world is about to fall apart. It could be so many different reasons that you cannot take on because they didn't respond well. Some people that know me and care for me walk straight past me sometimes because they're so lost in their thoughts. I didn't see you. I just didn't see you. And that's okay. That's okay. It's not about you. It's not that people don't care about you. People do, because if they didn't, the internet wouldn't be what it was.
Yeah.
People do care, but their reactions and their thoughts and their ways and especially the negative ones, have nothing to do with you.
That's great. And I'm very proud, always to meet strong women and who can just slay at work and be very, very strong and have I don't care attitude. Nana, you can become such a great mentor. And I would like to I sometimes do a TikTok online session also with the women which who I find very interesting, and they could be good mentor. And so I would really love to invite whenever you have time for a 30-minute.
I do TikTok lives as well. So yeah, it'd be great.
Okay, great. Then you can me someday also, or I can invite you and we can
Yeah.
do this, and it will be lovely. Because, like we youngsters, we are still stuck in very small things. Oh, I talked to this person, he did not talk back. And then there is an inside me that switches and it's talking about, okay, podcast, big things. So this also happens probably. So I'm going through both. So this is the podcast for a very serious talk, and the TikTok is a forum for like real me.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I think we should do.
Awesome. Let's do it. Let's do it soon. Very soon. I'm
Yeah,
looking
let's do
forward
it
to it.
very soon. Why should we wait for New Year? Let's do it very soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Nana, I'd like you to give a message to other females also, who want to become the top leaders, but they are a little they have fears of, like how people will see, how people will react. And when you go to other seniors and senior leaders and meet them, they're not very welcoming. Even females, there are females who are not very welcoming of the new females. And of course, males, they have other ego issues or tantrums. How do you see that the females who want to access those high profile rooms, high profile events, and how can they think, okay, the power is shifting and they can still stay in control of the thing? What principle or personal philosophy will drive, you think, can drive them for this important, vital work and still thinking they're important?
First of all, you as a woman need to understand that your power does not come from the same place that men have told you it comes from, or men display it comes from. If you want to rise up in your own self, you need to step away from the male dominated way of doing things,
Okay.
right? That's one thing. The second thing I'm going to go back to, you need to understand enough to not care. And thirdly, you need to lower your expectations of of what you think people can do, how you think they can do it. You need to lower your expectations in those spaces, not lower your expectations for you, lower your expectations of people. You need to lower your expectations of people so that when the situations come, especially in corporate, men say things, they do things, then you're just like, what? And you're just being hit left because you're expecting better from them.
Yeah.
You need to lower your expectations.
Okay.
When you start lowering your expectations of men, not because you look down on them, but if you have children in your life and you understand anything about child development, you do not expect a 7-year-old to go toe to toe with you in terms
Yeah.
of trying to decipher why the state of the world is the way it is. They can just say to you, it's not a nice day, right? And you're not going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that's all they said. When you observe the men and people in those rooms, whether they're women who've also been through that process and now they're kind of entangled in it, and you observe where they're coming from, you can lower your expectations to expecting more from them than they can give you, or more from them than, or expecting that they would behave in better ways. And with that, you can then move forward because you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Okay, let's move forward. And it's not like, oh my gosh, how could they do that? And if your eyes are open, you can see that they were going to do it anyway. And what that does not mean is that you don't lose hope about things, but it means that you place your feet firmly on the ground of reality, right? Barack Obama said when he sat at the table with all these men, do you remember that? He said, he's like, I realized you ain't all that. And if if in those high tables, they are not all that, what is
Mm.
happening in our tables? They are
Yeah.
also not all that.
Yeah.
You need to remember that. Not
Yeah.
to have an arrogance about you, but to be rooted in the reality. The
Yeah.
large majority of people, especially, unfortunately, the white men and the mediocrity have arrived in those places because of supremacy, not because they were the best for the
Correct.
job, because our society favors them more than it favors us, and that's it. So when you have that, first of all, you move strategically because they have that favor, things will be looked on more kindly to them than they will be to you,
Mm.
right? So you move strategically. My thing when I walk into those rooms and those areas is I am unashamedly open with people, not about my life, but I do not shudder in the face of any authority at all. I will make you laugh. I will make you giggle. I will make you lose yourself in terms of trying to hold up a persona, which it is. It's just a persona. At the end of the day, you know, you eat, you go to the bathroom, you do all the things I do. What is so special about you? You know? And with that idea, it allows me to be able to walk into a room and say, I have something important to say. You need to listen to me. If you don't listen to me, that's your issue. You know, it's lowering your expectations, understanding who you're dealing with, and not
Mm.
caring really, because who will say what about you? People will look at the internet. People will always have something to say about something,
Yeah. Internet
sometimes based on no facts.
internet has made
So,
life easy and difficult at the same time.
yeah. And what it has done is also it's brought the town square into everybody's house.
Yeah.
You know, if you lived in a small village or a village and you went into the town square, all the crazies were there in the town square. Though for some reason, all the crazy people came to the town. So everybody came and the crazy people came. And the internet has brought the crazy people into your home, the
Yeah.
town square into your home. So sometimes you feel slightly violated by that, but actually that's just our world. You know,
Yeah.
there's always somebody at the back
Yeah.
screaming something crazy, and now
Yeah.
they're in your face, you know?
Yeah. So, Rana, this was very personalized message. So, among the winners, which category you
Yeah.
see, sector you see, women are going more from your grant?
There isn't a particular sector.
Okay.
Women are doing everything. Um, uh, Street businesses, community projects. It's not one particular thing and I think that's a myth and a lie. It's not one particular thing that women are interested in. Women are doing finance, they're doing sports, they're doing, fashion, they're doing beauty, they're doing nothing to do with, they're doing science, they're doing so many things. So there isn't, when I look at I have to look over. I don't take part in deliberation. I have to look over the applications. And I am so overwhelmed with the amount of capacity Black and brown women have and the diversity in the things that they're trying to do. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So anybody that comes to me and says to me, oh, women just want to do this. No, they don't. No, they don't. It's just that they don't get a chance to do it because they don't have the money.
They don't
So
have.
yeah.
So, money is our problem. There is no scarcity of passion, ideas, hard work.
No.
Money is. Yeah, I agree with
Yes.
you. One,
Money is the
one
problem.
One thing that I would like to ask from you, being a leader also, and I'm sure you meet other leaders also, that we have, of course, a lot of setbacks and passions and everything, but we do have one more additional responsibility, that is care, and billions of
Yeah.
unpaid care. This lies on our shoulder. We are just blessed by heaven for the care work. How do you see this, especially in UK?
It is a challenge every woman, including myself, has to.
Like care
Pardon?
responsibilities are not expected from men for the same family the way they
Yes.
are expected from females.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But this is something that is up until now, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. So
Hmm.
what I say to women is create networks around you that allow you to, how would you say that, distribute
Yeah,
care
and breathe
responsibilities within
and breathe.
yourself.
Yeah,
And breathe and breathe. I work with a lot of women that have neurodiverse children. And, I suggest to them all the time, I'm like, okay, maybe you cannot leave your home or your children cannot leave your home, but you can go to a small hotel down the street. Maybe you can't be far away, but you can just spend a day
yeah,
while somebody responsible can look after your children, but you're still there. You haven't traveled across, you haven't made this. A lot of times when women want to breathe from their care responsibilities, it becomes a burden to think about what to do next because they're thinking, I need to go on holiday far away and da da da. And I'm like, just
Yeah.
go to a boutique hotel. Go to a
I
boutique hotel for the weekend.
I think the females who have additional responsibility of care, they're more worried because they think they need to plan a whole vacation. While I do agree with you, they can
Exactly.
little walk, they can take an hour per day to themselves and they can feel better instead of
Yeah.
planning.
And they could, and again, if they know, if they need a break, there are hotels in your city.
Yeah.
I do that a lot because my son is autistic. So I'll stay in a hotel in my
Mm.
city, and overnight or 2 nights and just enjoy myself without being inside the house because sometimes somebody can take your child away, but you're still burdened with the responsibility of the home because you're in the home and you're looking
Yeah.
at all the things that need to be done. Separating yourself away from that is really important. And then the other thing, the main thing with care, because it's not just about children, it's about sometimes it's parents, it's about, older, it's all about learning to hand over responsibility. Because sometimes as carers, and I'm guilty of the fact, I'm like, if I'm not around, he's not going to be okay.
Yeah.
He's so used to me. If I'm not around, he's not going to be. And we need to be in that painful place of recognition that if we care enough about the people we care about, we know how to set up safeguards so that they are safe when we are not there. But what we cannot do is pour from empty cups. And we are pouring from empty cups that is damaging ourselves and the people that we're caring about. We need to really not do that.
I completely agree. This is the problem that a lot of females tell me, in fact, that the special children with special needs, their mothers are overworked. They are exhausted. They are emotionally upset. And then there is a guilt, even if they go out and try to make vacation. People are like, oh, who's taking care
Anything.
of your son? So, like the guilt, people are trying to guilt and shame
Yes.
them also.
Yeah.
This also
Yeah.
happens.
And again, you need to not care about that because if you don't replenish, what are you giving?
Hmm. What are you giving? Yeah.
If you don't eat food, where are you getting your energy from?
I'm very pleased to meet you, Nana, and I'm personally loving your thoughts, how mature you are. And, like the more I am talking, I'm so glad. And I took this decision. It's been 3 years. I wanted to start the podcast, and it was like, oh, am I good enough? Am I good enough? Beautiful enough to attract more viewers? And there were channels
What?
who you're not beautiful. You cannot start a podcast. Nobody would want to come to your podcast. And then I started talking to
Oh,
females and
wow.
invited them. Of course, there were those who were interested. Okay, how many views you have? And then there were those, okay, I'm super excited. Let's talk. And then there were females who
Yeah.
to the conversation, they said, okay, Nadia, you are lovely. This is the woman you should interview. This is the woman you should interview. And things started happen. So I'm so glad that I started this and I'm able to talk to mature women like you.
Thank you so much. That's such a compliment. You should tell my mother about that,
Yeah.
that I'm mature. Because she,
I
she doesn't believe me.
that we have matured. For them, we are still kids. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always like, just please let my mom.
You can show
Yeah,
her
thank you so much. No, it's been a pleasure.
this interview and you can replay this where I
I
called
will.
you before.
I will. I will. I'll be like, hi, mom.
Thank you, Nana, and I hope you loved this conversation. Before we say goodbye, but
I
I
did.
from you.
No, thank you so much. I think we're on a cusp of real change in our world and change in terms of seats of power, economic shifts, etc. And I believe that as women, we have the capacity to be so innovative in times of struggle and difficulty that we really need to learn how to tap into that so that we move with the change and not get stuck behind in the burning house of economic downfall. That's my message to
I
everyone.
love the message. I love the energy and fire in that message. I love it. This is what we need. We need females who can spread hope for other females. And not only hope, who can give others platforms also. Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
everyone, we have put in a lot of efforts for this interview. Please give your feedback. I'm sure there are a lot of lessons for you to take home, to apply to yourself and make your life better. And I will see you again very soon. Allah Hafiz.